4 years, the world adored them as gospel's golden family, a shining beacon of love, laughter, and unwavering faith. David Mann, the joyful husband, the devoted partner, stood unshakable beside Tamela through every triumph and tribulation. Together, they embodied Black excellence in ministry and music, a vision of marital bliss and spiritual grace that inspired millions. But behind the hushed doors of hospital rooms and tense family meetings, a different, darker narrative was silently unfolding. A story steeped in betrayal, chilling silence, and an unbearable heartbreak no one saw coming. Now, with Tamela Mann clinging to life on life support, her daughter Tiffany has bravely stepped into the spotlight, not to sing but to scream the truth. In a raw, tear-filled interview, Tiffany Mann's voice shook with a pain and rage that resonated through the digital airwaves. "While my mother was fighting for her life," she alleged, "my father was signing contracts and chasing stages. He wasn't holding her hand. He was protecting his brand." The allegations are nothing short of shocking. According to Tiffany, David not only kept Tamela's critical condition a profound secret from their closest family, but allegedly used that silence to meticulously preserve his public image while the woman who had painstakingly built that very image with him lay fading away. What happens when the mask of ministry slips and the true man behind the pulpit is exposed? This isn't just a daughter's desperate outcry. It's a reckoning, and the gospel world may never look at the Mann family the same way again. The silence before the storm, a daughter's desperate cry. For decades, the Mann family symbolized purity, a gospel empire rooted in love, prayer, and profound purpose. David and Tamela Mann were more than just artists. They were the very face of marital loyalty, spiritual grace, and unapologetic Black excellence. Fans prayed with them, laughed with them, cried with them. But now, as Tamela Mann lies unconscious in a hospital bed, clinging to life by a thread, a tidal wave of grief and betrayal has violently broken open. And it is her own daughter, Tiffany Mann, standing at the epicenter, facing the fury. It began with whispers. Tamela hadn't been seen in public for over 2 weeks. Her Instagram, usually vibrant with life, had gone chillingly silent. Scheduled performances were abruptly canceled with vague statements about rest and recovery, but no one outside the inner circle truly knew the horrifying truth. That is, until Tiffany stepped forward, her voice trembling, her eyes swollen from endless tears, and uttered 7 words that shook the entire gospel world. "My mama is dying, and he knew." Tiffany didn't speak like someone chasing fleeting fame or clout. She spoke like a daughter drowning in a profound grief, desperately clutching at truth for sheer survival. Her interview, raw, unfiltered, and streamed live on a private YouTube channel, exploded within hours. And the words she spoke next began to peel the carefully crafted image of David Mann apart like old, brittle paint. When Mama collapsed, Tiffany alleged, Daddy didn't ride in the ambulance. He stayed behind to call his manager. He said, "We had a show coming up in Atlanta, and we couldn't lose momentum." A heavy silence fell across the digital audience. Tiffany's hand shook as she held up a crumpled doctor's report, dated just days earlier, outlining Tamela's rapidly deteriorating liver condition, the urgent need for round-the-clock monitoring, and the incredibly high risk of systemic failure if not immediately hospitalized. Tiffany claimed David had seen that report. He had read every harrowing word, but instead of canceling his bookings, he allegedly told the doctors to keep it quiet. "He didn't want fans to panic," Tiffany recounted. "He said, and I quote, 'We don't want this messing with the brand. The brand over the beloved.' A devastating choice. That word, brand, once a shining symbol of family unity and shared purpose, was now being weaponized in Tiffany's desperate plea. She claimed David was so utterly obsessed with meticulously maintaining appearances that he allegedly suppressed Tamela's medical truth, even from her closest friends and spiritual sisters. No urgent prayer circles were formed. No devoted community was alerted. No family interventions took place. "She was fighting for her life," Tiffany cried, her voice cracking, "and he was fighting to protect a fantasy." Tiffany's accusations carried an immense emotional weight, not just because of the profound family ties, but because of what Tamela Mann represents to millions. This is the woman who gave the world, "Take me to the king," who transformed worship into tangible healing for an entire generation. She has been the spiritual mother, the steadfast voice of comfort for the gospel world. And now, as her real daughter reveals, she may have been spiritually abandoned by the very man she stood beside for an astonishing 35 years. The revelation was a gut punch, echoing the painful question, was her life just a part of his carefully constructed narrative? The gospel world reacts, echoes of betrayal. The backlash was immediate and brutal. Fans who once quoted David's comedy routines and praised his picture-perfect marriage posts now flooded comment sections with raw disbelief and profound grief. Hashtags like #ProtectTamela and #StandWithTiffany began trending within hours, spreading like wildfire across every platform. Old interviews were frantically dug up, meticulously re-examined. In one chilling clip from a 2023 stage show, David can be heard making an offhand joke about Tamela needing to slow down before she burns out. What once sounded like a harmless quip now felt like a sinister warning everyone had tragically missed. But Tiffany didn't stop there. In the most gut-wrenching portion of her interview, she held up her phone and played a voice note. A recording, allegedly from Tamela herself, weak, breathless, and audibly sobbing. "I'm tired, baby. Daddy don't listen no more. They all keep saying smile for the fans, but it hurts. It hurts to pretend." That audio shook the internet to its core, confirming the silent suffering many had suspected. Tiffany said she'd saved that message weeks ago, unsure whether to release it. But seeing her mother hooked up to machines, unconscious and unmoving, something primal inside her snapped. "This is not about clout," she declared, her voice firm despite the tears. "This is not a tabloid moment. This is my mother's life. And if I have to tear down the entire Mann legacy to protect her, I will." David's evasive silence, a cryptic response. What made this unfolding drama even more heartbreaking was the profound silence from David Mann himself. As the allegations spread like wildfire, consuming every corner of social media, he remained completely absent. No formal statement, no vehement denial, just an unnerving, deafening silence. Until 2 days later, when he finally posted a cryptic message on his Instagram story. A black background with stark white text that read, "Every family has battles, but only God knows the truth." It wasn't enough. The fans clamored for answers. The gospel community demanded clarity. And Tiffany, she desperately wanted justice. She later claimed that when she confronted her father privately before going public, his reaction wasn't one of concern or immediate action for Tamela. It was allegedly one of frantic damage control. "He told me to hush," Tiffany recounted, her voice filled with disbelief. "Told me that Mama wouldn't want all this mess out in the streets. But what Mama wanted was her family at her bedside, not her husband chasing bookings." Sources close to the family, including a former tour manager, have now started to leak what appear to be text messages that shockingly support Tiffany's claims. In one message, allegedly sent by David to a promoter, he supposedly stated, "Let's keep this quiet. Tam's just a little tired. We're still good for next week if she gets her voice back." If real, that message was chillingly sent 2 days after Tamela had been admitted into the ICU clinging to life. As the scandal continues to unfold, fans are left asking, was it all just a performance? Was the Mann image, the laughter, the love, the shared prayer, all just a beautiful, intricately woven lie wrapped in gospel harmony? What truly happens when the man known for making millions laugh becomes the very reason his family is breaking apart? A deeper look into the exploitation, the cost of a brand. The silence from David Mann was heavy, suffocating. He had issued no formal statement, merely reposting a single Bible verse to his Instagram story. God is not the author of confusion. But to millions, that felt hollow, almost like a deliberate deflection. Fans weren't confused, they were heartbroken. And now, they were demanding answers. Meanwhile, Tiffany's video was gaining traction far beyond just gospel circles. Major news outlets picked it up, and mental health advocates began weighing in. A prominent pastor tweeted a searing indictment. "We've turned our women into ministry machines and called it faith. But who's protecting their hearts?" It sparked a much bigger, more uncomfortable conversation. One about alleged exploitation behind the pulpit, about the silent suffering of gospel women whose lives had tragically become brands, whose exhaustion had been reframed as content, and whose health crises had been reduced to mere marketing problems. Tiffany revealed that this wasn't the first time her mother had collapsed. According to her, Tamela had shown signs of extreme fatigue for over a year. There were nights she couldn't even walk up the stairs without gasping. Tiffany shared, her voice thick with emotion. And he still told her, "Baby, we've got appearances next week." That wasn't love. That was pressure. She also claimed that Tamela had expressed a profound desire to take a break, a full year off to genuinely rest, heal, and focus on her rapidly declining health. But David allegedly wouldn't allow it. He told her she was the glue, Tiffany recounted, that without her voice, the ministry wouldn't survive. And Mama believed him because she always put everyone else before herself. Tiffany's voice broke as she recalled how her mother once recorded an entire worship album with a raging fever of 102 degrees. Barely able to stand, she pushed through, believing that pushing through was holy. She didn't know she was killing herself slowly, Tiffany whispered, her words echoing the painful truth. The weight of those words sat heavy in the hearts of millions. Churches across the nation began to hold emergency prayer vigils. Entire congregations knelt in silence, crying out for a woman who had led them in worship for decades. Her music, once a source of joyous praise, now echoed in sanctuaries across the country with a profound sadness. Fans posted videos lighting candles, holding photos, and playing "Take Me to the King," with tears streaming down their cheeks. But back inside the hospital, Tiffany was still the only one bravely speaking out. Tiffany revealed that when the doctors delivered the grim news that Tamela's condition had tragically worsened, her organs now showing definitive signs of severe stress, her brain activity weakening, David finally broke down. "He fell to the floor," Tiffany recalled. "I thought it was grief, but now I wonder was it guilt?" The question lingered, a haunting query no daughter should ever have to ask about her own father. The cracks become chasms, image collapsing. Sources close to the family continued to come forward, their revelations exposing more layers of the hidden truth. A former assistant confirmed that David had once told her, "If Tamela slows down now, we lose everything." Another family member sensationally leaked a schedule showing how, even just days before Tamela tragically collapsed, David was still actively booking podcast interviews, comedy appearances, and press tours, all under the guise that Tamela was just resting. But she wasn't resting. She was allegedly dying. And no one knew because silence, Tiffany argued, was an integral part of the business model. Tiffany said that after her mother slipped into a coma, she desperately begged her father to go public, to let the fans pray, to let the community know the truth of Tamela's dire condition. "He told me, that's not how we operate. We keep things in-house. We don't air out weakness," Tiffany recounted, a bitter edge to her voice. "And I remember thinking, that's not ministry. That's manipulation." By now, the Mann family's once golden reputation was not just cracking, it was shattering. Sponsors pulled out. Tour dates were postponed indefinitely. The gospel world, once so tightly knit and unified, was now deeply, painfully divided. And yet, amidst the chaos, Tiffany never stopped hoping, never stopped praying. "I just want her to wake up," she whispered in an Instagram live, her voice trembling. "I want her to open her eyes and know she's not alone. I want her to know that we see her now. Not as a product, not as a voice, but as our mama, as a woman." She sat on a cot in the hallway, just outside Tamela's ICU room. "I keep talking to her. I tell her stories. I sing her songs. I hold her hand and tell her, you're more than enough. You don't have to be strong anymore. Just come back." Doctors approached with weary, grim eyes. The results from Tamela's latest brain scan were in. "The swelling hasn't reduced," one doctor said softly. "We're entering the most critical stage now. If there's no neurological response in the next 48 hours, we'll have to make a decision." Tiffany collapsed into the nearest chair, sobbing uncontrollably. David covered his face and turned away. Not perhaps out of shame, but out of a paralyzing fear. A fear that everything was slipping, that the woman who had shielded him from countless storms might now vanish, and potentially take all their carefully guarded secrets with her. The flicker of hope, a daughter's unwavering fight. But the world wasn't waiting anymore. Major gospel networks began issuing statements. Artists who once sang beside David now publicly distanced themselves. A few even sided publicly with Tiffany, revealing they had witnessed Tamela's heartbreaking decline for months but were urged not to speak. Churches held simultaneous sermons titled "Protect Our Women," dedicated to Tamela. Entire choirs sang her songs with tears streaming down their cheeks. Across the nation, a spiritual reckoning was powerfully unfolding. But in that sterile hospital room, amidst it all, Tiffany returned to her mother's side. "Mom, they're finally listening," she whispered, her voice raw but filled with a new kind of resolve. "They know now. They're praying. They're fighting for you." She held her mother's hand gently, her forehead resting on Tamela's arm. "I'm sorry I didn't speak sooner. I'm sorry I let it go this far." And then, faintly a twitch, Tamela's fingers moved just once. Tiffany shot up, calling the nurses. Alarms rang, monitors spiked, and the staff rushed in, a flurry of motion and hushed urgency. David watched, frozen from the doorway, as Tiffany wept, not from grief this time, but from a fragile, burgeoning hope. "She moved," Tiffany whispered, her voice a mix of awe and disbelief. "She moved." The doctor nodded cautiously. "It could be a reflex, or it could be something more." And in that tiny, almost imperceptible movement, the world paused. For a single, fleeting moment, time bent, pain softened, and the possibility of a miracle lit the air with a breathtaking intensity. This wasn't the end. This was the beginning of accountability, of healing, of truth finally speaking louder than image. Because in the brutal battle between performance and reality, the truth, no matter how broken, always finds a voice. And this time, that voice belonged unequivocally to Tiffany Mann. More than a story, a reckoning, our turn to carry the song. If you've made it this far, then you've felt it too. The ache, the profound sense of betrayal, the love that was stretched far too thin until it snapped with a devastating finality. This isn't just about one gospel family's unraveling. It's about every woman who's given everything and been left empty, invisible. It's about the mothers who pray through their pain, smile through their sickness, and serve everyone before themselves until their bodies tragically collapse in silence. Tamela Mann gave us her voice, her unwavering faith, her formidable strength. Now, she desperately needs ours. This moment, it's not about cancel culture or fleeting drama. It's about conscience. It's not about sensationalism. It's about dignity. It's about standing firmly beside a daughter who found the sheer courage to break the silence, even if it meant irrevocably breaking the cherished image we all once held so dear. Tiffany's voice may have cracked, but it never, ever wavered. She risked everything, her family's legacy, her own peace of mind, to courageously tell the truth. And now, the rest is unequivocally up to us. So, here's what you can do. Pray for Tamela, not just as a gospel icon, a legendary voice, but as a mother, a wife, a woman who profoundly deserves healing and peace. Support Tiffany. Let her know she's not alone in this agonizing fight. Share her story far and wide. Stand with her, amplify her voice. Hold leaders accountable, in gospel, in ministry, in our communities. We simply cannot, and must not, let ambition silence compassion any longer. And finally, see her. See Tamela, not as a brand, not as a platform, but as a human being, bruised, beautiful, and still valiantly fighting for her life. Because if her voice gave us hope, then our collective voices might just give her the strength to come back. This isn't the end. It's a powerful awakening. And now, it's our turn to carry the song.